Hey everyone, and a massive welcome to a very exciting episode here on InfoSec Live of Selling Cyber, where the awesome Greg van der Gaast explores how vendors can impress additional value from their offerings in a way that can drive real change to the security landscape. Today, we're focusing on why representing your product as a unicorn or silver bullet solution is a really bad idea. But before I bring Greg on, my name's Simon Linstead. I'm the founder of the InfoSec Live community. And for our regular viewers, no, I haven't suddenly aged 10 years. I've just upgraded the equipment in the InfoSec Live studio in preparation for our next in-person event in San Francisco next week. But by sharing stories and best practice over the last few months, it's led to over 8,000 hours of our content being watched on YouTube by you, our amazing subscribers. So a huge thank you for your engagement. And if you'd like to support the wider InfoSec Live community, or indeed buy me some face cream, we do have a few ways you can show your appreciation. First up, the ability to purchase super stickers in the chat if you'd like your question bumped up to the top, and 3 tiers of membership allowing you to show your support in any way that you can. But whether you join or not, being here and engaging with our content is what really matters. So if you're watching this live, please like and subscribe. And as we want to make these interactive, make sure you drop any questions you have in the chat. After all, it is you, our audience, who makes these events so special. So Greg, time to bring you on. If I can find the right stinger. Here we go. I noticed that you didn't mention the fact I look really old when we spoke before, because we have actually met in real life, and you know that I don't normally look 10 years younger.
Yeah, you've always been old to me.
Yeah.
You still look younger than I feel most days.
Yeah.
How long have you been in cyber now?
2 years, 3 months.
Yeah, so I've got 10 times that.
You're only 27, right, Greg?
My kids are turning 24 next month.
No, look, massive welcome. Thanks for coming on, and a big thanks to everyone in the chat. I see we've got loads of people watching again today. Do you want to start off by just letting people know why we're doing these shows to start with?
I actually want to start off talking about the intro. You've been busy with the intro.
It's the same. No, it's just the same one as before, but you didn't watch it previous shows.
That could be it. That could be just my senility at work. Okay, because it's so high energy. Then you come on and it's just got. Yeah. That's just a victim of your own success. Yeah. Ask me the question again. Let's get started for it.
I can't remember what it was now. Yeah, no, I do.
Why are we here? Why are we?
Why are we here, and why are we doing this?
Why are we here? I'll start. I mean, I'm basically trying to start up a new business, consultancy, whatever you want to call it. We were talking about this offline earlier, but there's I think it's one of the reasons why I'm making this pivot. So there's just so little interest in actually hiring what I would consider like a real C-level CISO. I've had this conversation with several people now that the bar for being called a CISO is just going down and down and down. I spoke to someone this morning and they're like, yeah, in our company, our security managers want to be called CISOs, but they're operational managers. They're not C-level executives at all. And it basically just made it completely unemployable. Like I'm talking about business security strategies to help these companies, and they're like, oh yeah, we want to secure our point of sale devices. Like that's not a corporate business security strategy. And it kind of forced me to pivot. And I've been doing public speaking for a few years, and kind of very randomly, like vendors that I'd work with, they liked dealing with me. We did like a bunch of speaking engagements, dinners, some blog content, that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd kind of formalize that. And the whole idea is just basically help. And I'm very frustrated with where security is at, where it's not really security, it's just tech, like it's pure tech and it's firefighting, and we're really, really, really ignoring the root causes, which is why we keep spending more and things are not getting any better. They just keep getting worse. And I thought, well, I can probably get vendors to actually pay me more easily than the people who actually need help securing themselves. That's just the reality. But instead of, and I know that's selling out, but instead of selling out, like help them.
Is it selling out though, if you're making a difference to their behaviors?
That's the thing, because I kind of want, like, I would say that I use these words a lot now. I think that the core focus of what I want to do is help them position what they do, or even realize that sometimes they have, solutions, software applications. They don't even realize what a clever CISO can actually achieve with those. They think, oh, it's just vulnerability management. It'll find your vulnerabilities. It's like, no, it allows me to ask the questions of why they're there and drive change in engineering and IT operations and architecture and all these other things. Same thing with, like, oh, storage is just storage. It's just, if something goes wrong, I can recover from it. It's like, yes, but it's your safety net. It allows you to shift resources and be more proactive. And how many millions of potential kill chains do you have with all these arbitrary risk calculations? How can you possibly get accurate calculations for risk management out of that? How do you explain that to your board? And I can recover in X number of hours. That's my risk. Very easy to explain. Work backwards from that. So there's a lot of, like, different narratives and value propositions, and we're very kind of stuck in this status quo way of doing it. And by helping vendors come up with these different narratives and value propositions, I keep repeating myself, for these things, they're new selling points. If you have two people selling the same product and one has a better value proposition story around it, people are going to buy that one, even though it's the same thing. You're just selling it better. And that, I think, genuinely, and it also opens up the audience, because you're making it like, now it's something you can actually sell to a CFO, because it starts making sense, or a CEO or COO, not just the techies. So that really helps the vendors. People find it genuinely interesting. And I think by creating those stories, you're creating these insights that you're then giving to the practitioners. And I think especially at the top level, a lot of the security leaders, which is the word we give them, but they still need a lot of guidance. And by leveraging the vendors to tell them these narratives of where these products fit and how you can leverage them effectively, you're really helping them, as opposed to our product, which is what we're going to get to today, our product does this, so you need it for that. So that's not what I'm trying to achieve. Like, educate them to the big picture and then place yourself where you fit. So that's kind of what I want to do. And interestingly, there's beyond just products and like storytelling around that. I noticed a lot of vendors are struggling with how they do sales. I've seen some good, like, sales pitches of, hey, this is the company, and then, hey, this is the product and the problem space and what we do, and then you end with, like, a sales engineer, and it's completely detached from the customer's reality. And the customer was kind of like, oh yeah, they're talking about problems. This could maybe help me. This sounds interesting. And then you got 20 minutes of a guy just clicking boxes on the screen. It's completely disconnected from my problem, what I'm trying to achieve, and really just kind of losing the sale on that. I see.
Can I jump in quickly there? Because when you asked me earlier, how long have you been in the industry now? And I think it's less than 2.5 years. So I'm not an expert. I come from a different angle with this, but the same angle, which is how I've ended up riding your coattails on this show here on InfoSec Live, in that having 33 years now experience in sales and marketing, coming into an industry that's thriving and booming from a vendor point of view, but looking at the sales practices and how they're not working and how they approach. And one really good example of that is on Sunday, I fly to San Francisco. I went to RSA last year. Thank you very much, Bramfit, for taking me over there for that. But what I couldn't work out was why all the people on these stands were doing was scanning people's badges. There was no qualification. There was no relationships built up. It was as though they'd been instructed to collect names and information.
Yeah.
And then what? I mean, is that not, again, different industry experience? But for me, surely you're better off qualifying One, whether they're a buyer
Yeah.
to start with, which no one asked me once, and two, whether what you're trying to sell them actually fits in with what the problem is.
Yeah. It's quite. I think we'll get to this a lot today, but it's quite. JJ's making fun of Darktrace and risk metrics.
I can't look at the screen now because the camera's to the right. I need to sort this setup up.
There's what was I going to say? There's I find like vendors sometimes misunderstand their customers. The number of, you go to a website and it's just a bunch of FUD and hype, and after 10 minutes on the website, I still don't know what the solution is, how it's going to help.
It fixes everything cybersecurity related, doesn't it?
If it's specific, it's so like I need something tangible. Like I know what I'm doing. You tell me. Stop making me pull teeth to find it. And the interesting, like I know some people go to RSA. One guy in particular, and his strategy is literally go to, like, there's a bar across the road from one of the entrances, and he just spends the day there, and he picks up the people that have left RSA fed up, unable to stand being in there anymore, and then he strikes a conversation with them. And that's
one advantage of being a ex-smoker, now a vapor, is, and it's been the same in every industry I've worked in, the smoking area is where you get business done, because people are outside, they're relaxed, they're away from the conference. What's JJ put now?
Top tips today. Well,
make a fake email for conferences and make an auto reply rule to send them. Rick Astley never going to give you up. Brilliant.
It's interesting because like already the people attending, you raise a really good point, and it's related to some other stuff. The people attending those conferences, 99% of them, and I genuinely mean, I think 99% of them don't have budget authority.
No, I had no budget authority when I went. And I won't do this year when I go. I just want to take vendors' money, not give them money.
They're not the people that are going to be buying from you. And it's a real problem with marketing metrics as well, and that conflict between marketing and sales. Because you see, so for example, last week I did this post about, it wasn't about Darktrace, but it was Darktrace that triggered the idea, because they don't exactly have the best reputation for suave, friendly, helpful sales. And it was about, just selling your product as a unicorn, as a silver bullet, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people because of that morning, there was this rumor that BitLocker had ransomware them, and everyone was so focused on Darktrace, ransomware. It's like literally that was 2 lines in what was, a 20, 30 line post, and everyone, not everyone, but 90% of the viewership focused just on that. No one even realized that there was marketing and sales talk there. It was just Darktrace. And I think that shows you a lot about those demographics, because that posted really, really well. That got 70,000 impressions or something in I think about 45 on day one, and it flattened out at about 70,000. But most of the engagement was not the decision makers. It was mostly technical security people focusing, making fun of Darktrace.
Everyone was quite pleased, I think, weren't they?
Yeah, and that's another thing that's quite interesting as well, because, and I did get told off by a few people as like, blatant clickbaiting. And I was like, look, that was absolutely not my intention. And some people got really hostile with me. And and I thought about, and I tried to explain, no, that wasn't my intention. And when it became obvious that even apparent that it might not have been true, I immediately edited it. But some people were really like, nasty, you're clickbaiting people, blah, blah. It's like, yeah. And this one person in particular also mocked me for having liked my own post. The funny thing is, sometimes I put a lot of thought into what I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to put out something where I've really kind of pulled together my insights, and I'm giving something out that I think is generally really, really helpful to people. The engagement is shit.
Yeah,
the engagement is really, really low. But that's the kind of post where if I get 5,000 views on it, but I get 2 or 3.
This is back to my point on vanity metrics. You see, it drives me insane.
Managers reach out to me, a regional manager reach out to me. Great, that's 3 potential people that I can actually deal with.
There's too much focus on follower count. I mean, don't get me wrong, numbers does make an impact, but if you're just focusing on follower count on LinkedIn, you're missing the trick, because it is about speaking to the right people and building the right relationships, isn't it?
That follower count is good for me, because I can then market myself to the vendor saying I have a big following.
Yeah.
But in terms of actually landing someone who wants to pay me for a retainer to provide my services, it's not that big number that's important.
They're not the ones they're worried about. No.
Yeah. And if the other thing is, if you're going to be hostile like that, if you're going to have this elitist complex, if you're going to badger me for liking my own post, because I think I'm saying something genuinely helpful or hopefully insightful, just trying to give the LinkedIn algorithm a kick so more people see this. If you're being nasty about that, you're probably not going to be my customer anyway, so don't give a shit. So I did actually, and some of these people I was connected to, and I actually just blocked them. They just can't be asked anymore. I think some people start arguing with me. It's like, apologize.
I haven't got the time to waste arguing with idiots.
I mean, I'll apologize. I'll consider their point. I'll reply. I didn't mean to, if they didn't continue to be hostile just to troll or whatever, it's immediately gone. Yeah. So what were we saying?
But now I'm trying to type and talk, which I can't do. I just saw Dustin made a comment about hating all the people with here's 85 free resources for training. Yeah, me too. Because they're just copied and pasted from everyone else. They drive me insane as well.
And it was a lot of people. I did get some slagging off and you're what was it? You're defaming a vendor, blah blah blah, and shouldn't. But I was like, yeah, but 80% of the contents were just like, oh, I've never been so happy to see someone get breached. And I think that makes my point about let's go get more on the meat of the selling yourself as a unicorn. So first of all, just bad practices, just a really aggressive salesmanship, which I'm not even call it salesmanship because it's not. I mean, to give, and I think I mentioned this in the comments. I mean, I've been in a situation where I've had vendors. I'm not going to name them this time, but you probably know who it is. I'm not interested, but I've got 6 or 7 different salespeople from there calling me, and I tell them I'm not interested, and then back then we still worked in offices, and I see the phones of my team members start ringing. They're reaching out to them, having failed with me. Like, you've already failed at the top. What exactly? And they're all in it on it. And then they start calling people from the project management team and the dev team over there, like telling them stuff like, oh, I'm late for a meeting with them. Can you give me the phone? I'm like, what kind of tactics are these? When you end up having to escalate and actually call the company and say, like, please stop harassing me. I want you to put me on a do not call list. And then a couple months later, they call you back to ask you why you're on the do not call list and then pitch you. And it's like, you need to just
leave. Yeah, nearly as good as the company who 2 days ago reached out to me about meeting with their founder at San Francisco next week to talk about how we can work together. I then get sent 3 messages today from my network, all who've received the same message about come and attend our conference. I see you attended InfoSec Live's virtual con. And I just thought, why are you doing that?
I particularly like the one from they sell, well, it's Veronis, sorry.
Another sponsor off the list.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should keep that in mind for you.
No, that's all right. It's fine.
I know I'm not going to do it.
All good.
You still might. Sorry.
No, I don't. I think this goes back to the point. Whilst I clearly want to make a living out of what I'm doing, there's absolutely no way I'm going to nail my colours to the mast of the likes of, I'll say the name, Dark Trace or others with similar practices, because it's going to ruin the really small reputation that I've built up in the last 2 years, isn't it?
I've not looked at Veronis in a few years. I've certainly never visited them or given them my email or anything like that. And all of a sudden I'm on a Veronis mailing list, and they're selling me, their solutions for GDPR and stuff. I'm like, do you appreciate the irony of collecting my information without consent?
Well, I don't know if you know the answer to this thing, because GDPR is the first thing that came in my mind when I saw that message today. If you register for an event on LinkedIn, are you then saying that everyone can access that information? Is that part of what LinkedIn does? Does anyone know the answer to that in the audience?
I'm not sure what their policies are.
No, me neither. Richard, you should know. You've got an investigative background. Perhaps you could enlighten us.
But like in the Dark Trace, because especially Dark Trace kind of positions itself as do everything. I mean, the founders got an MBE for services to cybersecurity. And a lot of people associate, it is cybersecurity, but it's just a tool. And I don't really know very many people get much value out of it, and a lot of people are really fed up with with the very, very pushy sales approaches. Interesting. I heard this from Ashley Pierre, who's a great guy, today. Another vendor, I'll try not to name them this time, they actually got a mention in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Gartner called them on too many customers reporting aggressive and harassing sales tactics. And this is a big name in the industry.
Is that an award they've won then, or?
I don't know. But I thought it was interesting that Gartner's like picking up on this and reporting back.
Yeah,
like
it is.
On their actual sales practices. But with Darktrace in particular, just portraying it as, it will learn, it will automatically apply, and you will be secure. Because already people will struggle to understand the concept that security is not a bunch of machines, AI and ML fighting hackers off. It's a quality equation. You got to cover your whole business. It's all this involvement, influencing, coverage, holistic, blah blah blah. Programs takes years. All this stuff that people totally don't get that. So already you're doing a really big disservice to the industry by saying you can just plug in this one tool and magic. But the other thing is, if you've done that, well, how are you going to sell them other services? Is A. No, I think even before that, a lot of security leaders, they come from tech backgrounds. They don't understand the whole business integration. They don't understand the business process. They don't understand how they have to build quality into business processes upstream.
Does this take us back to the point about more and more? Sorry, I'll say this, so I just assassinate any future contact with these people. Not knowledgeable enough people now becoming CISOs.
I think it's
not knowledgeable is probably the wrong terminology, isn't it?
It's just a different kind of knowledge. I think a lot of people simply just don't realize what's involved. I mean, if you take me back 10, 15 years, I would have been one of those people. It's just a question of like kind of enlightening and educating. And by ignoring that, because the vendors themselves, they're so focused on the tech that they're building that they're probably blissfully unaware of all these dimensions as well. But by all my pitches for when I do talks for security vendors is, okay, the FBI taping microphones to my testicles because that gets the ladies on side. But after that,
I love how you got that in there. Then,
after the comedic skit, it's kind of like because that's just building engagement. Like everyone's amused, everyone's paying attention, and then when you switch to serious stuff, they're actually listening to you. But I explain, how is security going, and you show them the trends. Like, well, spending is up, breaches are up. Clearly, this isn't working. Why is that? And you look at the way we're doing it, and map that to any other kind of industry. The way we're approaching things, just endless firefighting and not fixing the root causes. That makes no sense. Look at it as a quality proposition. So, I've never thought about security as quality. And how do I fight that? Well, then I build this program and I try to achieve this, and I try to drive these changes, and these are all the components. And then that vendor solution is one component. And I say, okay, that solution allows me to address these things. It helps me a little bit here. It gives me some visibility there. It allows me to do this and that. So then they understand, A, it's more genuine. Well, A, I've just enlightened them about the bigger picture, which they never really considered. I've kind of shown them how to build a program at a very high level. So it's like, that's interesting. That's something I didn't realize I needed to do. Or I have a program, but it's basically I'm just taking ISO boxes. I didn't realize I need to get executive this and integration with legal and HR and compliance and all my business platforms. I hadn't ever thought about, the business process part. So that's helpful. And then they see, okay, these are all the things that you need to build out, and that's where this fits. And these are the capabilities that gives me. And it's kind of like it's almost like a child needs discipline. A child needs boundaries because they feel safer because they understand where the limits of the world are. So all of a sudden now this is relatable, and you start understanding how the pieces fit together. Instead of having hundreds of vendors just scream at you, oh, you need this, no, you need this, oh, no, you need this. You understand how the pieces fit together. So the world kind of starts coming together, and they understand how that vendor's one product fits. And then I try to come up with all these other narratives of stuff the vendors never even thought of the extra value and extra little things that could maybe get out of it, or it's a tool for vulnerability management, but I can use it to leverage an argument to get traction to do security or whatever.
Is this what their sales team are missing out on in education?
I think because they don't know themselves, right? And I think that's kind of like my fortune in having the background. Everything from the whole teenage hacker bit to the undercover bit, because that did lead me to see hundreds of breaches firsthand. So there are a lot of insights there, and then I still had like that 10-year like blissful ignorant period where I was doing, implementing encryption solutions and IDS and firewalls and all that kind of stuff without really understanding the business context. And then moving on to the head of building programs, writing, CISOing, blah blah blah. So it allows me to kind of create those narratives for them. Ashley pointed out this morning actually that Ashley Pierre again. I didn't realize
who's Pierre? Who's Pierre?
Ashley Pierre.
Ashley Pierre.
Connect with him on LinkedIn. A great guy. Everyone connect with Ashley. He was pointing out, I didn't actually realize this was a fairly new thing, but I guess it is. The whole concept of the field CISO, that security evangelist, but senior security evangelist person, someone who used to be a CISO, and companies hire them to kind of be able to relate to other CISOs. And that's fairly new, and I didn't realize that. So
it's blooming as well at the moment.
Yeah.
I know 2 people who've just left being CISOs in the last month to take on the
vendor.
Yeah.
So those insights, and then, but me, I'm a bit more out of the box than most people, so I end up creating more additional narratives, more on the business side, commercial side, that kind of stuff as well, and creating those stories and helping people realize where that vendor's product fits, and it's honest. And when they, when they implement it, they actually get what they were told. And if it's not working or not getting the value out, they know it's because we haven't done these other things. It's not immediately blame the vendor. And I think the other big thing with the honesty is that I did a separate post on this, and this got zero traction because I didn't mention a cool techie group thing.
We need to bring the Lamborghinis back.
Someone mentioned we need to bring the Lamborghinis back. We should Photoshop it in the actual banner when you do the graphics.
Good idea. Yeah, I'll have it as a background. We can lean on it seductively, or maybe not.
Can we? I've got I've got one of those pictures.
Wrong show.
Yeah. Totally lost my train of thought.
I know. I thought that might do that. You've told me that story before.
I don't think we're talking about the same story here.
Oh, okay.
How drunk was I when I told you this story?
About 4 drinks in. You weren't too bad. Yeah, we don't want this is the wonders of not drinking alcohol.
You have so much leverage on everyone.
Yeah.
But one of the beauties of, it's coming back to me now. One of the beauties of just being honest is you're helping, you're providing insight. B, this is kind of a tailored thing. So you take the time to understand your customer's actual needs and concerns. My concern is not, I need EDR. It's like, no, I need to increase, I need to improve the security posture. How do I achieve that? How can I achieve that? If you have a better solution, a better way of doing it, great. So it's just more honest, and it builds that trust, and you tell me about the limitations. And the other thing is, if you do that, if you explain, look, there are no magic bullets. This is how you kind of build a program, and this is how you try to achieve this, and this is where this fits in. When your competitor comes in and says, we fix everything, we have a magic bullet solution for you, well, you've been educated to know that that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
And your competitor is going to look like a dick, basically. And that really hurts their credibility. And by being honest, by raising the level of awareness, and by saying things that you can only say if you truly understand the space and the customer, you create an awareness that will rule out vendors that don't have those practices, that have the fuddy aggressive, which is a lot of the space, actually. So it's quite advantageous for you to just take a much more humble approach. And I think somebody else commented on this. I hadn't even thought about this. Like, it creates pride in what you're selling. If you're one of the salespeople actually working in these companies, instead of just push, FUD, you're competing with 100 other vendors just pushing FUD.
The other point, actually, let me just move you up to the top and bring up Jessica's comment here, because it's pretty relevant to everything you've been saying. Rarely is there perfect communication or understanding between 2 parties, but promoting transparency and boundaries facilitates better relationships. Completely agree.
Totally agree.
And just to do a bit of a name drop, because they've sponsored our event in Manchester on the 25th of May, if anyone's interested. Apexa IQ, you introduced me to Steve Armstrong. I was chatting to him on Monday this week, and we were having this very discussion about how the sales process is broken, how most companies aren't doing it properly. And he was telling me some stories about how he's built trust and relationships with leaders through not selling them the products and telling them where they should go. You know, you're not going to get a quick win from that, but then 2 years down the line, when he's moved on somewhere else and what you are selling is actually relevant, you're already that trusted person who they're going to go to. And his big gripe was the fact that vendors don't work together on this. So back to your point about how do these all fit together, what complements what, maybe if the vendors started to talk a little bit more, they could end up getting more business out of it.
It's an interesting point because I've I think it was with you actually. I brought up the concept of like, why don't we like create an event or something?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
where we get vendors together and we just try to like explain to them the industry, what we as CISOs do, blah blah blah, how to relate to us, this that, and it wouldn't work because they don't want to be in the same room.
No.
Yeah, so it's quite unfortunate. There is an opportunity for I'm talking to PAX 8 lately. Great, Moston, top guy. And they sell a whole portfolio of services. So you're not necessarily dealing directly with the company. You're dealing with
the broker.
Kind of a service provider, because they're mostly on the MSP space.
Yeah.
But however the the vendor's internal culture, whatever you want to call it, is, you're shielded from that because it's mostly in PAX 8 that's that you're dealing with, and they will advise the best solution for you. So that's definitely a better approach. And you said something else before.
Can't have been relevant.
Steve Apexa. What were you saying? Help me out, Simon.
Apexa sponsoring our event in Manchester.
Oh, I've got it. That's all I needed. Just to sound your voice, man. It's magic.
No,
it's
the new microphones. That's what
they're not doing the sale and then getting more business later. I've had that. I've had really good lead up sales experiences with people. Sale didn't fall through. It wasn't quite the requirement. It wasn't, the budget wasn't there, whatever. But then at the next company, okay, I could do it now and go back to that company and close that sale. And when I enjoy working with, the product obviously has to be good.
Of course.
But honestly, I'll go for a slightly lesser product if the relationship is better.
Yeah, because when the shit hits the fan, you need someone to trust that you can call on as well.
Yeah, exactly. And there are certain products that I've used in almost every single company I just keep going back to them.
It's Darktrace, isn't it?
But there are some of those where I've literally gone to like 3 different companies, bought from them 3 times in a row, and then they've just changed management team, or they've changed marketing leads or sales, and all of a sudden the support isn't there. The person I used to deal with isn't there. It's not the same vibe. Don't use them anymore.
Yeah.
So it's important to build those relationships.
So what's your advice for someone who's running a sales team at one of these vendors? What do you think they can do to start changing this?
Call me.
I knew you were going to say that. Line that up better. Really, didn't I? Just call me. Just call me. Call Greg or sponsor one of my events.
Yeah. Or get Greg to talk to you at.
Okay, well, I should mention that, Greg, you are our headline speaker for the Manchester event.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was just the open mic guy.
Well, headline speaker, open mic guy. So potato, isn't it?
This is so not what I signed up for.
Yeah. I'll give you details later. It's fine. Yeah. No, it's exciting. And
what you've done is just open bar the event, so I'd be there, and you're just going to unload whatever tasks you need on me.
You've seen through that, haven't you?
Yes, I have. It's still going to work. So
let's think of new cunning plan. I was just going to ply you with alcohol. I thought it would be fine.
It's my strategy.
As Richard just said in the comments, back to your point, better to leave a deal with the door still open to return, which I think makes a lot of sense. Or as JJ's put, anywhere, here's Wonderwall. You have to explain that one, JJ. And you also said, JJ, almost got a role as a SOC manager by finishing a few bottles of wine with a CISO. Sadly, I was unable to take it. What, the wine or the job? There's a lot to be said for people who drink, I think, in getting jobs drinking with CISOs, perhaps. Mike, what's next on the list, Mr. Gaast?
me and some friends once helped well, I believe he was the head of investigations for a certain government agency that's quite relevant to cyber. Helped him get on a train because he was so pissed he couldn't walk, and then we got him into his daughter's bed at home, which he promptly pissed. So we never had to worry about that agency because we knew if ever we got breached and they came to investigate, we've got leverage.
That's brilliant. Best drunken urinating story for you here.
There you go.
Just while we're lowering the tone. When I lived in the Canary Islands in my 20s, I used to share a villa with a couple of other lads. And I was laying in bed one night about 3 o'clock in the morning. My door opened. My luck wasn't in. It was my drunken housemate. He walks up. I had a glass top table like this big, a low one. He walked up to the glass top, flipped the top off the table, and then just pissed all over my room, which was nice. Just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Me neither.
Can we edit this out?
Oh dear. Someone said, awesome, Simon. Happy to see this conversation rescheduled and going well. I don't know if that was just really good timing when you walked in.
I think that's a very poorly timed comment. It was probably as he hit enter, I was like, oh no.
Shit. Yeah.
Where
were we before I dragged the tone down?
I think I said most of what I wanted to say, but I want to ask you why you're doing this, because I think there are some overlaps in this education and all this stuff. But back to the initial question you asked me on your end.
Well, I think I'll answer that flippantly to start with, as per your comment on my post last week. Simon just wants to travel to all the sunny places in the world is one answer to why I'm hosting the events, but the main reason is it seems like and feels like the right thing to do. So the community was set up to try and help mostly people breaking in to the industry, which it still does on a regular basis. But through that, I've built up a massive connection of leadership like yourself, Greg. And all of them have come and said the same thing, which is the events we go to, it's too many sales pitches, not enough chance for us to knowledge share, network and collaborate. So I've decided to do something different that they've asked for. So really it's a case of listening to what the industry is saying and working out that there might be a little gap there. And considering the events company was launched 2 months ago, and we've already had Cambridge, Tampa, we've got San Fran on next Tuesday, Manchester on the 25th, Washington, DC in June, Austin, Dallas, New York City, and back in Tampa again in August. I would argue that there is definitely a call for it. And after attending my first B-Sides event, which was miles better than any of the other conferences I've been to from a knowledge gaining point of view, again, it had turned into a bit of a sponsor fest with regards to a few too many sales pitches. And I think the danger with what I'm doing with the events is I need to keep it small to make sure it can never turn into a big business, because if it does, it's going to just end up becoming exactly what everyone else's is. So I've probably opened up a bit too much there because I'm trying to work out where to go next with it, if that makes sense.
I'm just hoping that Dominic's comment is not actually true. Tell me that didn't happen.
No, no, it didn't. I'm saying that hesitantly because I did take on wondering who hacked my phone. I did take one picture of me on the rooftop pool in the hotel to send to my wife, but that wasn't wearing budgie smugglers. I'm too old and unfit to ever wear those.
Nice. Thank God.
Yes.
Cool.
So hopefully you do not recommend Tampa in August. A lot of people have said that, Jessica. It's very, very warm. My wife's keen. I'm bringing the family over for 4 weeks. So we're coming over on the 6th and we're staying, I think, until the 4th of September. So I can do some events in the US and they can go to Disneyland. So we'll make sure we bring the suntan lotion.
Yeah.
But other than needing work, I suppose, is the other answer. I don't want to go and work for a consultancy or a vendor selling products and become everything that we're moaning about now. So I've tried to forge my own path and create something which hopefully adds a bit of value back to the community. I'll stop talking and let you talk now.
Yeah, no, sounds good. No, it sounds really good. So I've got really excited to be doing a bit of work with Hitachi, for example. So we're doing a blog series on storage and recovery, and it's one of those things, like as soon as I get my head in something, I start coming up with new ideas. And this is applicable to a lot of vendors, for example. So what they sell is is seen as an IT operations piece. So I'm doing a blog series on making all that stuff relevant to security people, and I hinted at some of that earlier as well. And they're sponsoring me to basically do it's basically going to be a whole separate book. So it's going to be pretty much a 50% rewrite, and a lot of stuff that I've been wanting to talk about that's not in the other books. I just hadn't really formulated my ideas around them. So go into more detail about the things that I see people have misinterpreted, how to build programs, the communication, the commercial side of security. And it's that kind of sponsorship that allows me to do those things and be helpful. So that's how I offset the selling out bit. But I will only ever talk about everything I say is I try to make it from a security or a strategic. How can you really get the value? How do you build programs? How do you run this? What's a strategy look like? How do you communicate? How do you influence? And I think it works really well for the vendors, because the audiences, again, like when I give a presentation, if it's a 45-minute presentation, there's less than 3 minutes in there that's actually about their product. And even then it's very kind of generic, high level. And then the next guy can go down, the expert can talk about the product. But audiences really appreciate just that takeaway, the education. And one thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of elitism and being threatened in security. I hear a lot of vendors who just they struggle to sell because their product would give visibility, and there's a lot of really crappy CISOs out there. But we have to overcome that. There's nothing we can do about that. So just because someone is not is shielding and hiding stuff and not doing the job, doesn't mean we shouldn't still be trying to help them.
Yeah,
I think I've noticed that I can go to people. It's not the same people, but just anecdotally, try time and time again to go into a place and help them, and there's just so much resistance. But then if they go to an event sponsored by a vendor, and I talk and I explain how I see things and how I structure things, and they take those ideas and they carry them on by themselves, so they feel like they got a lot of value from the event. It's really helped them get new ideas, kind of actualize themselves, but also gain traction, be able to show things or be a bit more business relevant and raise their internal profile. But they're going forth and they're implementing the ideas as their own, which is, as long as someone's implementing them, that's an improvement. So I'm quite happy with that. And it's a way of vendors of really creating that value and helping just drive change, not just to the industry, but everything depends on technology as well. We're becoming so tech dependent. We're trying to digitize.
Well, we're trying to digitize the sales process and the relationship management as well, which just isn't going to work. I mean, I'm going to say that. I'll say that because I'm nearly 50. It does work to a certain extent, but you still need that human touch.
That's a good point. I meant it more just very generic, everything, from cars to banking to, we want to digitize absolutely everything. But we've shown for 20, 30 years now,
it's not safe. Yeah,
we're absolutely useless at securing anything. This is we really, really need to change how we do these things. So that opportunity to it's going to become an existential crisis at some point.
I think vendors are waking up to the point that they need to approach the leadership differently, which I think is reflected in the amount of interest and the amount of sponsorship I've had for these events.
Yeah, and you've done quite well at that.
Again, riding on coattails comment again. I mean, the one in Tampa was such a success. It was hosted by an epic CISO called Steve Hindle, who also knows a lot of people in the area. So that massively helped. And I think the fact that Steve, like you do, buys into the fact that these community-driven events are trying to do things differently, then really helped others in the industry engage with that. Because if you've never met me before, you're going to think I'm a snake oil salesman and I'm trying to sell you something. And it's because I was a salesperson for 30 years, I suppose. But I'll give you some feedback from the Tampa event from Carlos from 360 Advanced. Putting this into context, we had a 3-hour open mic debate on the national cybersecurity strategy. No slides from the vendors. We didn't even mention what the vendors did at the start. We just gave acknowledgement that they'd sponsored the event, which is probably a bit of a learning point, and I might do that bit a bit differently next time. But Carlos has picked up 3 absolutely quality meetings off the back of that, where he's now talking to people about business, and he didn't do any sales pitches at the start.
Yeah, I think it's anyone that gives you value. Like sometimes I go, I'm at a museum and the museum is free, and I just at the end like, well, it's weirdly sometimes you can't do donations, but they'll have a gift shop. So I was like,
Yeah, you just go and buy a load of
I'm
tat.
gonna I'm gonna buy some, hopefully a useful tat that I can gift to someone, but I'm gonna buy something just to support them.
Yeah.
And that's maybe not the best analogy,
It is no, but I know exactly
but
what you
but
mean.
you know what
And
I mean. Like if you've helped me in some way, I want to do business with you. It doesn't have to be.
there's a quote in JJ's favorite book, The Art of War, which relates to he who adds value first wins. And I think that's what it's about. If you're adding value, people have had a great time, whether it's they've learned something new, they've met some new connections, they are going to feel a little bit beholden to the people who've put that event on and paid for it.
Yeah, and you just I don't know. You just want to kind of reciprocate, and you want to. I don't know where this. I'm not a psychologist, but you want to work with people who do good. I think.
Yeah. I think there's enough vendors out there now who are trying to change the way they work for both of us, hopefully, to make a success out of supporting them. I suppose the call to action on this would be, if you are interested in Greg's approach and you're a vendor and you want to find out more about how we can help, just reach out. I mean, I can't help you. I can host an event for you, but Greg's the man to help.
It's just it's creating narratives, blogs. I hate writing, and I don't believe in Chat GPT. I mean, I believe in it; it's quite good, but I'd hate for I want my ideas to be my own. Yeah. And that's one thing it will not do, is it will not. I can get it to create a blog that says the expected stuff, but it's not going to come up with new ideas.
That brings us on to Dominic's question. Do you see a time when companies will attempt to use AI in the sales vendor process? I think they probably already are, but
yeah, I think a lot, and I know this from marketing friends. A lot of marketing copy is now AI generated.
Yeah,
blogs are AI generated, but like most blogs, it's just fluff. It's just to be fair, that is the marketing strategy. It is create a lot of content. It's fluff, but it's got all the buzzwords in it. It's what people are looking for, and it'll raise up the SEO value.
Yeah,
that's the real reason why most companies do blog content. When I do blog content, I try to look from my perspective, as I would be your customer, and the more kind of strategic site insights and value propositions that I'd get out of those, how it all fits together. I really want to kind of educate. I want to drive that value. I don't want it to be fluff. It's not about being fluff. It's about helping people. And once you've created that content, once you've put those ideas out there, it's not just useful for the end customer, but it's useful for the sales team. It was like, oh yeah, that's something that I could pitch it that way. I could pitch it that way. I remember doing a talk last year at it was a horse racing track. I forget where. And I was a bit kind of like negative about vendors in it, because they put me on stage for 2 hours. I was going to have to slag people out of the front. I was so tired. I remember I had a flu and like 2 hours sleep, and they put me on there. And I somehow managed to go over. But I was like, all the reasons things aren't going well, and there's no strategy, there's no approach, there's no business integration, we're not looking at root causes, blah, blah, blah. And kind of, like stop obsessing with all these tools and this and that. But then at the end, I was kind of like, but I'm not saying you don't need the tools. I'm saying, and a lot of people say, oh, but if you use your approach, you won't need the tools. Like, no, you'll need the tools. You just won't need them you won't need to use them so much. I still need a screwdriver. I don't want to be using it every.
Give me an example of that. You don't have to name company names, but give me an example of what you mean by that.
For example, I think there was one. I don't actually remember. It might have been Symantec or something, but they were advocating like a managed service, and it was like, find deficiencies, vulnerabilities, fix them. But I was like, okay, but great, but integrate that into a process where you find out why you have that defect and fix that business process so that it can keep reoccurring.
Yeah.
So you have less and less of the same issues, and you're able to, okay, that type of issue now is down to a trickle, or stopped, or down to a trickle. now I can move on to the next one and shut that. So
and that is utilizing those tools in a different way.
But that is how any other industry would work.
Yeah.
We wouldn't allow, planes with defects to just take off all the time and just, hope the air traffic controllers can handle it when it goes wrong. It's like, oh, the flaps on the 737 are getting stuck. We need to address the design of the 737 so that this never happens again. But we
I'm glad I'm flying on Sunday.
Yeah. I'm sure they fixed that by now, fortunately.
Yeah.
That's
not the cheap flight I've got for San Francisco. Probably not. Right. Russian Airlines.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
I wouldn't fly them right now. It was funny because when the vendors actually came up to me, and he was like, at first he was like, oh, this guy is not really towing the industry line here. But at the end of it, he actually to thank me. It was like, it's not very often that I hear, different, I forget what, different new perspective or something really new and refreshing. And they really liked it. And they've gone on now, and it's not just about a cleanup service. We'll actually help you improve your process.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. So there's different narratives out there. So yeah, I like to have put these ideas out there, and then the salespeople can reuse them. Sometimes I get salespeople approach me and they reuse analogies that they're mine. They heard them from someone else, and now they're throwing them back at me. It was like, I came up with that.
I think I'm laughing because I think I did that on one of our streams. It wasn't your really good car one that I love, that I've kind of remembered, but absolutely destroyed it each time I've tried to use it. So do you want to just give me that one again so I can use that on another call?
I'll some other time when I see you next month.
Yeah, thanks. Well, we are just about out of time. Anything you want to finish off on before I wrap things up? Actually, that's the perfect reminder. So let me drop your LinkedIn.
Oh, I have a website now.
Oh, you do? Do you want to put it in the
GregVanderGaast.com is available.
Put it in the private chat, and I'll drop it in the.
It's literally my name.
GregVanderGaast.com.
God, you people don't want to believe the filth in this private chat.
It's not. That's last week's. Hold on. So I've dropped in your LinkedIn profile and
literally GregVanderGaast.com. It's
perfect.
I've always hated my name, but now it's like,
why?
Hey,
it's a cool name.
Yeah, it is now. It wasn't before. I've made it cool.
That's what it is. Yeah. Greg, thank you very much for taking the time. Thanks everyone for tuning in, being engaged in the audience. We're actually back on Thursday this week with, I believe, David Higgs, and can you remember the other guy's name? Because I can't.
No.
And David Higgs' friend. For a very important friend who I'm now going to have to find out who it is. So I don't know.
Really watch this broadcast.
Really bad. Hold on. Let me find it. Seamless. This is seamless.
Is it Kevin?
No, it's Jason Hart. Of course, it's the Chief Technology Officer at Rapid7. Jason Hart, who is joined by Senior Sales Engineer David Higgs, and they're going to be talking about outcome-based selling, I believe. Do you want to let our audience know what that means, Greg?
Selling for outcomes.
Perfect. Thanks for that.
No, but I think that's a great question for them.
Yeah.
And I'd like all these dimensions that we've discussed today. I'd love to go just vendor by vendor and have a discussion about all these things for vendor. I think that's our format going forward. I
think so too. I've got a good one lined up for us. I won't mention the name until I've confirmed it, but it's someone very senior at a very large insurance company to talk about how they can approach this market in a different way, which I thought might be quite exciting. Jed says he loves the site. I haven't had a chance to look yet, so I'll have a look after it. It's a good man, Jed. But look, Greg, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you Thursday again back in the studio. I might try and get some makeup on to cover up these lines for when we come back, or just put a filter on the camera. Remember those shots you used to see? No, I'm going to go on the wrong tangent. But you can put like a soft filter on the lens, can't you? Is that what I mean?
What you could do is just buy everyone drinks, and we'll just drink you up to a 7 or an 8.
Perfect. Yeah. Let's drink me up to a 7. Did you say? On that note, I'm going to go downstairs and sit and rock in the corner and stare at my feet. Greg Vandergaast, thank you so much. Foot fetish. Thank you so much for your time today. Not at all. Can't think of anything worse. Actually, I don't know
Where is this going?
I hate feet. I don't know what I've told you that either. Thank you very much for tuning in, Greg. It's been entertaining as ever, and we will see you on Thursday if I can find the outro that I'm desperately trying to keep talking for.
Yeah.
Bye. See you later.
Bye.
Everyone.